Hello and welcome to SDN Tech Forum. This is a part 2 of our OCI cloud series. In first part I have created we'll talk about IAM and created a web VM. In this part we are going to spin up a private instance and then attach block storage to our previously created web VM. Then we'll talk about object storage and cloud health dashboard. And that will conclude the two-part series. Let's create another compute which is DB. I already have a DB running, so I'm going to terminate this because you can at max you can have 2 always free compute. So I'm going to terminate this. I did it purposely so that I can show you how to terminate your VM instance. Terminating will of course take same amount of time, like 3 to 5 minutes. Wait for it. I pause the video in between. Now since it is terminated, let's create another instance. Let's name the instance something appropriate. So I'm going to say it, call it db-vm. Image, let's change the image to something different one. I'm going to use Ubuntu 18.4, which is again always free image as it says. And then change the size, of course, because you want to be qualify for always free available in only in AD3 in this region. So I'm going to AD3 specialty and legacy and chose the shape. So that gave me E21 micro, and you choose your VCN, SDN Tech Forum and SDN Tech Demo. That's my VCN and subnet. Of course, in part 1 we created the DB, the private subnet. I'm going to use that subnet. Boot volume. By default, you can see all the Linux-based VM, they have size of 47 GB of a boot volume. Boot volume is where your OS resides. And then SSH key. Since it's a Linux base, again, no username and password. You need a SSH base key. So I'm going to copy SSH key of web VM and my VM, so that web VM can also talk to my DB. And if I want to talk to web VM, DB VM locally, I can also talk. Obviously, you need to allow some security list also. So let's paste the SSH key for both the VM, excuse me. And in my web VM, I didn't created the keys. So let's create the key first, SSH key gen, and you can say RSA key pair and the size. Let's keep everything to default. That means it is a default location where it will be stored. And passphrase, I'm not going to use any passphrase. That is an additional level of security, but I'm going to keep it empty. So let's go to that VM. Sorry, let's let's go to that SSH key where it is stored, and look at your RSA key. So this is my public key on Oracle Web VM. I'm going to add this SSH key to DB as well. And now I'm creating the VM. Very straightforward, just like earlier. Only key thing is subnet. This time I assigned is a private subnet. That means it's not going to get a public IP. It's provisioning and it will turn into green. That means it's running. Okay. So as you can see, it's always free category. It is a spin up in availability 3. Fault domain it chose automatically. That make it FD3. Username is a Ubuntu. By default, the username is Ubuntu, and there is no public IP address. But this is my private IP address in the subnet 10.02/24 2.2. As you can see, so you cannot use 0. You cannot use 1. The third IP only you can use, which is .2 here. And this is my instance detail, image size, image shape configuration. On the left hand side you can see the VM related resources. That means what is the boot volume attached, block volume attached, what kind of, how many NICs I have, all those information resources aligned to this VM. You can find it under resource section. Okay, so you can console connection. If you want to do a console, you can read a quick read through, and then you can do that. OS management and all those things. Matrices, how your VM is doing, all those things you can see here only. Now let's try to connect to Ubuntu or data and DB VM from my web VM. Okay, both the machines are in cloud in the same VCN, and as you can see, my web VM is SSH to DB VM because they have, first thing, they have the SSH key, and the second thing is there is no route table requirement within the VCN. So these VMs, they are part of same VCN, so they can talk to each other without any route table and with using default security list. Okay, then you can see I have a security list which is for this VM. There is no ingress rule or anything required. Okay, so that is pretty straightforward. Your cloud, they can talk to each other freely, but anything outside the cloud, they need to have the proper route and security list and all those things. You can, if you want, you can restrict this communication. Obviously, you can create a security list and assign it to DBVM and say not even my VCN peer can talk to me. You can do that, but by default is like the communication is allowed. So that's what you can see. But Ubuntu VM, now if you try to ping outside, that means try to ping the Google DNS, see, you cannot ping, because even it can talk to WebVM, and WebVM has a internet connectivity, it cannot transit through. Okay, so that's why it doesn't have internet connectivity. But if you go back to Oracle VM, you can see it can ping outside, it can ping. So this is kind of like default security you get. Now let's talk about the volumes, block volumes. Block volume is like a storage location. Okay, so you get 100 GB of block volume in your availability domain, and I'm already using 94. That means 2 compute instances where my which I spin up, they all are using 47 GB. That means 94 GB I'm already using as my boot volume. And now I want extra space, so I'm creating another block volume. Obviously, at the end of the trial, either it will be terminated, or you can upgrade and keep it running. Okay, so what I want a default size which is 50 GB, volume preference is balance, and then IOPS. So I get 60 IOPS per GB. And then you can customize it also. You can say that, okay, I want higher performance. That means your IOPS and throughput will increase, or you can say that I want a lower cost. Then that will bring down your throughput and IOPS. Backup policy. So you can define backup policy: gold, silver, and bronze. That means how frequently, how reliably the backup will be taken. So you can do a little bit read through about the backup policy. Encryption, you can use Oracle keys, or you can your keys to encrypt all those things, right? So this is how you can create your storage. I'm going to keep it default, which is 50 GB, and the balance, and encryption using Oracle keys, because encryption at rest is by default. The data is encrypted. So this is how you create your block volume. A lot of options. Let's hit create block volume, and it is provisioning. Just like compute, it is going to the pool resource, carve out what consumer want, what a customer want, and you see it will, from orange it will transition to green once the services is available. So you can see this is available, and all the information related to that, like size, AD, all these things are here. Again, after you spin up a volume, you can create a backup of it. You can create total of 5 volume backup in your region. Okay, so if you want to create a volume backup, this is how you create. And you can do also cloning. That means you can simply clone the entire block storage. Okay, but one thing to note, clone and backup, they cannot run simultaneously. Okay, and you can create full backup, you can create partial backup, everything you can do. And attach instance tab, it will show you where this block volume is attached. Okay, it's not used to attach this instance to an instance, but it just show you. Okay, so backup and all those things. Now let's attach this volume to a web. So you create your block volume, and once you create your block volume, you are going to attach it to the instance, so that that VM can start writing or reading from that disk, right? This is a external location. So I'm going to create a block volume web VM disk 1, keep its size default, backup policy, no backup policy, very minimal configuration. I created my block volume. You can see that you can do multiple things, like you can clone it, you can back it up, you can customize it, but I'm going to create a very basic block volume and then attach it to our web VM which we created in part 1 video. Once it is available, go to the hamburger menu, go to your compute instance, choose your instance, which instance you want to attach, and then under that instance you can see attached block volume. So I have boot volume, which is by default where my OS reside, and then attach block volume. Here I'm going to attach the block volume. For Linux, iSCSI is the ideal choice, and then you say this is the new block volume which I created, I want to attach it to this instance. Okay, again it's giving me warning that this is always free, tier will be lost, and which is fine. This is the device path. Okay, just take a note of device path. This you will need, because it's a iSCSI, you will need to run some command, and access is read write. Obviously I want my VM to read and write to that block volume. So iSCSI, take a note of device path, and which you will need when you want to mount this block volume, right? So I say attach, it's attaching. So you created your block volume, you have a VM, you attach them together. Now iSCSI command, since it's the iSCSI combination, some commands you have to run. They actually give you the commands also, how to attach both the connections. You copy this and simply come to your VM instance and paste those commands. So our trust is established, they are attached. Now we will do simple Linux thing, right? The partitioning, creating the file system, and mounting this block volume, which is like a regular Linux job, right? So now you can see the block is still not available. It's a 50 GB, but it still say SDB. That's not available as like a partition. So it's not available to read and write. What I'm going to do is capture the device path, and Unix is case sensitive, so I have to say lowercase ll, and here you can see SDB is my block volume, and this is my device path. Take a note of device path. You will need it in subsequent commands, and I'm going to tell you what I'm doing in each step. So this is standard Linux thing. When you have a block available, what you do first is create a partition, just like Windows, right? If you bring in extra storage, you need to format that. So you create a partition first. Again, this is a case sensitive, pardon my copy and paste, sudo fdisk list, and this is the path. So you can see that blocks are created, sector size of 512 bytes. So I created a partition. Now create file system, so that you are creating a file system. Again, what I'm going to say is this will be available, this block will be available as Linux ext4 file system, and you have to say proceed yes. I didn't say yes, so let me do it one more time. Okay, once you say yes, let's say that that formatting happened. Okay, and I'm creating a mount point. So you create a mount point. So what you need is a mount point. So I created a directory. I'm going to call it disk 1. So this is other than my boot volume. So I named it as a disk 1. And now mount the block volume to this block storage to this mount point, right? So you are going to create the reference of your actual path to the new path. So these are like 3-4 steps you have to do, irrespective of like it's a cloud or it's a on-prem, when you want to bring additional storage. And now you can see I have the 50 GB storage available. Now let's talk about jumping into different type of storage, which is called object storage. Object storage, you get 10 GB of object storage and 10 GB of archive storage. Object storage is to save your unstructured data, like your image, files, and all those things. Okay, so I already have an object store created. I'm going to just delete it, but you cannot delete it unless it's empty. I have something inside. I'm going to empty that object storage bucket and then delete it, and then we will create a new object store for our demo. Okay, so object store is equivalent to S3 in Amazon, where you can put your videos, your pictures, and all those things, unstructured data basically. And there are two different types: standard and archive. Standard is equivalent to S3 in AWS, and archive is for archival data, which is equivalent to Glacier in AWS. So let's create a bucket, ASEAN tech demo bucket, and I'm going to create a standard one. You can create object versioning and all those things. You can create encryption, you can tag it, but I'm going to simply just go ahead and create a bucket. Okay, so the bucket is created. Always free tier give you 10 GB of standard. You can see all those informations are here. Object count, there is 0 object right now inside that. Which compartment, the compartment name, and all those things are there. Okay, visibility, you can change visibility, private and public. Obviously private means only the cloud resources can see that, and public is like anybody with the link can see. Now let's upload our first object to the bucket, right? So I have a PNG image. I'm going to just upload it so that I have something in my bucket. For demo purpose, you can click on 3 dots and you can download it if you want. So you uploaded it and then you can simply download also, but this is as an administrator you do, right? But you don't want to do that. Yeah. So you can upload it and then you can download, but that's not we want to do. Okay, now let me show you how you can access it, right? Create pre-authentication request. If it is a private object, right, that means it's not available publicly. Yeah, obviously you can make it public and anybody with the URL can access it. So let's make it public first and see how you can access it freely. So you're gonna click at the 3 radio tab and view object details, and this is the URL path. So this is the complete link for that object, right? So you copy it and then you're gonna paste it in your browser, and anybody with the link, they can pull in that object, right? Now let's make it private. So even if you have URL, yeah, you are supposed to have no access to it, right? So I'm going to copy the URL one more time, and here is the complete link to the object. So my bucket and then my object. So namespace, VCN, bucket, and the object name. Now if I put that on my screen, you see it says that object not available, or you are not authorized to access, which is obviously because it's a private one, and even if you have URL, you cannot access it, and that's the behavior we want. So how to work around with this, like with the how to work with the private bucket. If you have a private bucket, you can create pre-authenticated requests. So this is the pre-authenticated request based on per bucket or object. So I'm going to allow per bucket, so anything under bucket will be available, but you can go more granular and control access of each and every object, and also you can define access type with the read and write and the timeline, how long it will be available. So now I made a private bucket and see this is available now, right? Because I have got the link, pre-authentication link, and I can use it. So now I can go back and basically anybody with that link, they can access my bucket. What you can do next is you can delete your pre-authentication request. So that request is now invalid. So anybody with that key, see, it's not working because you deleted that. So system basically doesn't recognize that incoming request. Okay, now the final thing what I want to show you is resources, how you can see OCI health services, what services are running, how healthy they are, things about SLA. So this is a very nice dashboard. Here you can see what's new side, new notification keep on coming, right? And on the top you have this cloud shell. So this is like AWS CLI. Once you click on that, it provision a VM within the cloud, and you can run if from this shell you can access all your instances or all your resources using Oracle CLI. So this is more about operation. See, this is first time I'm spinning up. That's where it is kind of like creating that. By the time it created, let's see the services or resource management. So these are all different resources which Oracle is running in their OCI environment. And you see all the green checkbox, that mean the services are healthy. And if there is any notification, any incident or anything goes down, you will see that those are not available, and system status will change. So right now everything is under normal performance. And here while coming back, our cloud shell is provisioned, and you can see cloud shell machine comes with 5 GB of storage with your home directory. So from here you can configure, you can troubleshoot all your OCI resources. More I'm going to show you in upcoming videos. So this is the holistically what we saw in two-part series, and I think this is a good enough to get you started. And this is the end of module. Please get started with your OCI journey. Thank you.